I'd like us to talk today about these three chords. All three look very, very similar. In fact, the one on our left looks exactly like the one on our right. I'd like us to consider this chord D minor 7, flat 5. I'd like us to consider this one on the right as different. We'll kind of put a ghost note in here. We'll put a B flat. And that would spell out a B flat 9. This guy in the middle, same notes, different voicing or order of the notes. Here we have F, A flat, C, and D. Here on the outside too, we have D, F, A flat, C. In other words, the same chord, just different spelling. This guy in the middle, I want us to consider F minor 6. Now, that has to do with the F being the low note and us considering that the root. But you'll notice that they're exactly the same chord. F minor 6, D minor 7, flat 5 have the same notes in them. And we're going to learn to think of them very, very much in the same way, both in our chord playing and in how we think of them as improvisers. For example, if we see a chord progression that says D minor 7, flat 5, to G7, to C minor, let's say. That's very common, in jazz, obviously. This guy right here, it's considered a minor 2-5, specifically harmonic minor. But I might think of this chord not as this chord, but maybe this one in my improv. And even more kind of interesting is this one. I might think of this as a consequence, if I'm improvising, as B flat 7 to G7 instead of, or B flat 9, instead of as D minor 7 flat 5. I might take C harmonic minor, which is kind of a very classically classically correct sound to use over this progression. I might play that over a blues, over a B flat 7 chord that you might see in a blues. And we're going to talk about all this stuff and play through some of these things. But for now, I want us to think of these three chords as very interchangeable. When I see D minor 7 flat 5, I also think about this in my chord playing. Opens up a lot of possibilities to me. The same thing can be said about each one of these. When I see an F minor 6, I think of it perhaps as this, perhaps as that. The B flat 9, let's talk about that for a second. Because we talked about this note as being a ghost note. What I mean by that, I guess, in a sense, is to say that it's close enough for jazz. That's how we think of it, or I think of it. But you'll hear that the context changes everything, where this chord may sound very much like a 2 chord in C minor, and then in one context, but that is to say by what follows it. It might sound very different if I play it here and then follow this chord up with an E flat 7, let's say. And the other thing is to think of these chords in the context of having a bass player. So if this note is a ghost note and I'm playing with a bass player in the group, he or she may play a B flat in the bottom and give that a very clear-cut sound anyway. It can be very implied. I don't need a bass player, and the bass player might decide not to play that.